Hello, and welcome to 20 Lore Pro, a community of Lorcana players who enjoy deck building, competing, and opening Lorcana product. You can find out more at our Discord community, 20 Lore Pro/Discord, link in the description, where we have tons of deck lists, deck discussions, and upcoming events like this past weekend's 1K Lorcana tournament hosted by Crimson Lion Games. In today's video, you'll be watching Crimson Lion Games' 1K Top 8 match, Nate piloting Amber Steel Song versus Claude piloting Emerald Steel Floodborn. Wish our competitors luck and enjoy the video. Hello and welcome to Crimson Lion Games Lorcana 1K. We're on top 8. Thank you for joining us today here on Twitch. We appreciate your attendance. If you missed any of the rounds earlier in the day, feel free to go over to our YouTube channel where we have multiple tournaments with their rounds and different decks versus each other. My name is SirAshtown. I'm your announcer for today. We're glad to be here with you with 20 Lore Pro. Feel free to check us out at 20lore.pro/Discord. We have Discord community where we have tons of deck lists, deck discussions, and upcoming events. In today's matchup, we have Nate, who is piloting Amber Steel, versus Claude, who we saw earlier in the day, piloting Emerald Steel. Now, this is a great matchup in the top 8 to see. Normally, we're used to some certain colors who I won't name that are on here on a regular basis, but it's good to see a change up of colors. Based on the local community, sometimes the meta changes, so it's great to see these two colors come into the top. We see Nate here, who inked a Stitch, and now he played his turn 1 Cinderella. Now, these turn 1 Cindies can be pretty scary. You just don't know if they're gonna start going off and find a whole new world as quick as they can. We got a turn 1 from Claude. It looks like a Flynn. Following him by a Simba to protect this Cinderella who may lure. Sure enough. Oh, singing a song. Able to draw him a card. Let the storm rage on. Let the storm rage on. Big Frozen fan. Loved playing Elsa in Chapter 1. Won't be seeing purple Elsa this game. We see Claude ink one of those discard cards. Playing the Bucky. This is the discard card that he inked. But the Bucky, great card, especially with all the Floodborns that Claude's playing. We just saw him play Jafar in his other games, playing the Tinkerbells. Just so many of those cards really helping that Bucky just shine in this type of deck. Bucky giving you the ability to be able to draw every time that you play a Floodborn. Nate here with an aerial trying to look for a song within the top 4. Here's that Bucky for you to see. And Nate finds a Be Our Guest off that aerial. It was pretty hard to watch sometimes when we would witness these aerials not be able to hit songs, especially in Chapter 1 when the card pool for songs was a lot smaller. As we continue on the sets, I feel like Ariel will only continue to get better and better. Nate continuing to choose to lure with this protected Simba with his Cinderella. This Ariel able to sing
5 just makes her so strong. Claude choosing to cast a Shifted Flynn. This card gets great the more your opponent has less and less cards in hand. The Shifted Flynn is a Floodborn, which allows him to draw off a Bucky. This Flynn having his damage removed, I'm sorry, not damage removed, but with this Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo, returning a character to your hand to play another one, free. That Shifted Flynn allowing him to draw a card due to it being a Floodborn with the Bucky. Trying to pull up that Flynn for you. Nate here playing another aerial, looking for another song, which he does. Strength of the Raging Fire. This card gets great the more and more creatures you have. It looks like he's choosing to cast it here to get rid of this Flynn. Use the aerial that had already been in play beforehand. May have been what they were discussing. But here's that Flynn for you to see. It's that Floodborn 2/3. Taps for so much when your opponent's low on cards in hand. Here's Claude thinking about what to ink. Chooses to ink. And play Cinderella. Now these Cindy's, you know, they just, like I was saying earlier, they really get scary when you just don't know when you're eventually going to get that big Cinderella. Chooses to draw and discard. That big Cinderella, the Stout Heart, is just a beast of a card with that resist. Tons of lore can get, being able to attack non-rated characters if you play a song, just really strong. Here comes Nate with Grab Your Sword sung by Ariel to clean up Claude's board, following it up with A Whole New World. That's what these types of decks try to do. These Amber Steel, they really try to get as much advantage as they can from use on the board, lower their hands, and then draw. We're seeing that exact game strategy play out here. Playing 0 to hero, being able to help reduce the cost of casting his next character. Oh, and we see a big Cinderella Stout Heart from Nate with its reduced casting cost due to 0 to hero. We'll see how Claude responds with a board full of Ariels and Cinderellas. Simbas to protect him. Cindy with that resist. It's hard to get over that big hurdle. He plays a Prince, followed up by a Cinderella. Here's that 0 to hero card. That way you can read it. That card made Cinderella cost so little and yet gained so much for his board state. We're seeing more and more play of this card as the tournaments come out, seeing lots of deck lists running several of this card. I'm sure in the future we'll see more of it. choosing to discard Flynn shifted with that Cinderella trigger. Passing it over to Nate, who's up to 7 lore right now. Using that Singer Cinderella to cast Let the Storm Rage on. That's something about that small Cinderella that's really impressive. That Singer 3 just has so many targets to be able to sing out of all the Steel Amber songs that are out there. Getting rid of that Prince with the Strength of the Raging Fire makes that card deal quite a bit of damage with his port state as the way it is. Taking full advantage of having drawn so many cards this game, Nate lures up. Nate goes up to 12. Let's see how Claude can bring this back. Claude with a big tink. ETBs dealing that 1 damage to every creature except for Cinderella. Oh, I'm sorry, with Cinderella, they put it on there. Yep, they're talking about it right now. There you go. That's Cinderella with the resist. I think they're talking about the next turn, and Claude decides to scoop it up. Looking at what Nate had in hand. There's no timer for top 8, but just allows their minds to stay sharp as they play quicker. Claude, we saw earlier in the tournament playing against several Ruby Amethyst decks, and his deck performed very well against them. Seeing him here at top 8 with Nate playing Amber Steel's Song. Love to see these two competitors come out like this. In between this game, as we go into game 2, I want to thank everyone for joining us here today at Crimson Lion Games Lorcana 1K here in Texas. We want to thank our host, 20 Lore Pro, where you can check out deck lists, deck discussions, and upcoming events at 20lore.pro/discord. I'm your host today, SirAshtown, with our head judge being Stunning Rob, who many of you may know, along with our producer, Luxac. If you want to catch the other rounds from today's tournament, feel free to stay tuned afterwards where the Twitch VOD will be up for you to view. Or head on over to our YouTube channel, 20lore.pro, where later on this week we'll have the rounds listed as a YouTube playlist. We want to thank everyone for coming out today and watching our stream. Feel free to like or subscribe. And here we go into game 2. Again, for all of those who couldn't be here today, who are local to Crimson Lion Games, we want to wish all of you well. Hope that you have a quick recovery and that you're able to enjoy your holiday season. We hope that you've enjoyed watching your friends here on the stream and that you're able to enjoy just watching the competitive gameplay from your friends. And as we go into game 2 of top 8, I'm going to be welcomed here by Big Bag Thor 420. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Hey guys. Normally they don't include the 420 part. So what's the matchup? We have green steel versus yellow steel. Is anyone up a game? It looks like Nate is up a game. Usually I'd say this matchup is heavily in the yellow steel player's favor. That's just because typically green steel ends up being a discard deck, and
Here we are going into game 2. Claude starting us off. playing that turn 1 Flynn. As we've seen before, he's got that shift Flynn. Nate following it up with his turn 1 from last game, going with the turn 1 Cinderella. Claude thinking about his play.
Alrighty, can you all hear me?
Decides to ink that Jafar. Casting that shift Flynn, like I had mentioned earlier, to cast that Let the Storm Rage On. That's the great thing about a lot of these Floodborn shift characters is that going into the shift, you're able to sing a lot better songs. Well, we have a Jasper on board here with the Queen. Claude trying to find a way to gain more lore and set up his position on the board. Sets up a Flynn Rider. That Queen can be really dangerous because that Shift Queen, once it just gets on the board, it's able to sing Whole New World, can really just change the board state very quickly. The Queen just being such a great singer for Whole New World.
Alrighty, I think we have our problems fixed, or are we good?
Yep, we are good. I'm joined here by Big Bad Thor. Thank you for coming.
Yeah. So I was saying before this game all started that usually I'd say that the Amber Steel player is a pretty heavy favorite into the discard deck just because of a whole new world, recovering all this discard, and it really counters the whole strategy.
Yeah, it really sets them up at a disadvantage, just not being able to utilize their cards, like you were saying, to their advantage. Part of that recovery could possibly be for this deck having Bucky, seeing so many Floodborns in the Emerald Steel deck, just being able to draw so much.
Oh yeah, that's one of the linchpins of the deck. I mean, if it's able to go turn 2 Bucky into turn 3 John, most of us in the community agree that that's usually not a beatable draw by any deck.
You know, interestingly enough, you say Little John, I've been talking about that, and have not seen that in his list. Maybe we'll see it later on as the game goes on.
Yeah, I'd be a little surprised, but he's already got some unorthodox choices with the Prince being on the field and Jasper. So
Now, last game, I don't know if you were tuned in, but we got to see this Ariel, thankfully, with Chapter 2 having more access to songs, pick up songs twice in the last game that really changed the state of the game.
Yeah, aerial doesn't miss nearly as often now with, most decks that are playing songs. They usually have like 16-ish at least.
Feels a lot better being able to play aerial than in chapter 1. Just watching so many misses with aerial go off.
Oh yeah, but then again, there was, way less tempo in the format to really answer the aerial. So you could play aerial, and then if you whiff, okay, a couple turns later, you'll draw a whole new world, and at least you have a Singer 5. But nowadays, you can't guarantee that your Singer 5 is gonna, live past one turn.
No, you sure can't. And that's another thing about having the one drop Cinderella, just that Singer 3, being able to sing at least some of your songs off of a card that you're not really doing a whole lot with besides that.
Yeah, I think the scariest draws are including a turn 1 Cinderella, because they're just able to kind of stay ahead in the board for the rest of the game. Like, if they're on the play and they go turn 1 Cinderella, and you only have a creature that's an X2, and then they Storm Rage on, kill that, or banish it, and then play another character, and then the next turn they're set up to strength and banish another character of yours, and you're just falling behind because they just play a creature every turn and a spell. They're just double spelling.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's all about that resource game and trying to have the most optimal plays each turn, playing down threats, something that can really push your opponent to have responses, or else they'll just fall straight behind.
Yeah, and it's interesting now with the Amber Steel decks, whereas before it was like you kind of just turboed into wheel, but now they have so many resources at hand that they can play the game where they actually use all the cards out of their hand and then get to cast the wheel, which before wasn't the case.
Yeah, we just actually saw that during the last game where Nate had dumped a good majority of his hand, if not all of it, and then used his aerial to sing Whole New World, and he still had all of his ink left to be able to use, and it really set him up for that game 1 win. We're looking here now at Claude. I haven't seen him ink since his last turn. I don't know if he missed an ink drop, but he's trying to recover some.
Yeah. I don't know if it was, an intentional ink miss, but, I see a bippity boppity boo in his hand, so it could be that he's just got no inkables. And if that's the case, that's maybe puts some pressure on Nate in the fact that his Whole New Worlds look a lot worse.
That is a really good point, is that I've seen lots of skilled players hold back Whole New World because they see, just like what we're witnessing here with Claude, that maybe they don't currently have a hand that can handle the board state to play all their cards, and playing Whole New World by a less skilled player may lead them to allow the other player to get ahead.
Yeah. Especially when you're playing against the steel deck, so they have grab your swords and they have kind of the same recovery tools at their disposal. Claudio's having a long think here.
He is. That's something about top 8 not being timed. These players have a lot more time to be able to think.
So he's going to play out a Flynn here. It's more so that this is just a 2/3 evasive that he's going to use to kind of try to attack Nate's board state, but not really the best at that.
Something about Flynn, it seems so good in practice, and when it's been used like this, or when I've played it, I just feel like it's always behind due to not being able to use that lore to gain so much.
Yeah, I myself find myself on the losing end of Flynn quite a bit, but
Oh,
that's usually, you know, like the draws where it's like Bucky into John, and then they get to play a Flynn, or they get to, you know, morph the Flynn over it, an earlier Flynn, and really kind of get you discarding pretty quick, you know.
yeah, that's when this deck really comes alive. That's just I haven't gotten to see it too often. Maybe it's because of the color choices that I do. But whenever I do see it, at least when I'm watching games, it's always a pleasure to see those Flynn's be able to tap and the Bucky's drawing cards.
Exactly. And so, you know, from what I know is that the green steel discard players, they don't like Flynn, but it's a necessity for several reasons in terms of like what the deck needs. It just fills, it's a jack of all trades card.
Now we've had a lot of discussion between me and my play group about Bell, which I've put up on the screen for us. It just doesn't seem to fit into the slot of the discard deck, even though it seems like it just fits like a glove.
Yeah, you know, Bell I'd say is a card that people just haven't really experimented with. The card is certainly powerful. The format lacks many answers to it in terms of just being able to banish it. So sadly though, I think that there's just not enough things that grant Reckless in this format, so you can force your opponent to kill the Bell. Or banish it, sorry.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That this there's so many things that even with it having 3 lore, that it almost seems like whenever it does hit the board, your opponent is already so low on cards that they're just okay with swinging into it, losing their 1 card if that.
Yeah, I think that the way that Bell would have to be used is, you know, all in one go. It's like, okay, Bell sings a whole new world, and then I play a John Silver, for example, and give something Reckless, so then they have to banish your Bell right away.
Exactly, and John Silver, one of those great cards, and we've seen that today from Claude, played several times. That John Silver is just really a great card that can protect, keep stuff, or make stuff to attack into your Bell. They can make it attack into your cards instead of like with these aggro decks. You have that 1-drop 1/1s, or that lore for 2. They can really go off, and this John Silver can keep them from doing that.
Yeah.
Watching here with Nate, he played a flute along with the 1-drop Cinderella, setting up bodyguard with Simba. He's got himself a good defense here on his side of the board. Currently low on lore with 6 to 4, but this game's just taken away right now.
Yeah, Nate, you know, right now is quite ahead. But again, steel decks are able to do some magic and really kind of answer board states that are seemingly unanswerable.
That's what's so great about some of these bodyguards, like we're seeing here with Simba and the Prince on both sides of the board. Just can really protect some of your key pieces as you're trying to establish that.
Yeah, as a red-purple player, I bring it up quite often, but Simba and Prince are actually kind of difficult cards on the red-purple deck as well to handle. You can really kind of overload Madam Mim Fox when you play Simba and Prince, and really kind of pressure them into needing to draw Madam Mim Fox.
That Madam Mim Fox can be so essential, like you were saying, due to that rush. It's really reminiscent to the days when we were playing Rafiki in that place. But that at least the downside of having to bounce one of your cards can get so often turned to an upside to a lot of those Ruby Amethyst decks.
Yeah, correct. Madam Mim Fox, I think, is just going to be a better card than Rafiki. And that's sad. I love Rafiki. Character himself.
Oh.
I'm surprised they didn't get to.
I'm hoping, probably like many, that in the future that we get more Rafiki cards. He's just such a beloved character from The Lion King.
Yeah, exactly.
We got Strength of the Raging Fire, taking out the Queen.
Yeah, this is just, trading resources right now. And, when you're trading resources,
Ooh, and we have a big Cinderella hitting the board on Nate's side. Talked about this card before, but I'd love to hear your thoughts, Big Bad Thor, that this resist Cinderella, just the ability to attack into so many things, has been such a great card to see in set 2.
Yeah, I think Cinderella has cards in the game. It's just not as dominant as what we saw. We're like, oh, like, whoa. Thankfully, I think the printing of Lady Tremaine has made Cinderella a lot easier to keep in check.
We'll say, for me at least personally, the most disappointing thing about this Cinderella Stoutheart is that it wasn't printed in an enchanted form.
That is fair. There's many cards I wish got enchanted. Maybe someday they'll do like enchanted promos, like with how much play Ariel and Symbiocy play, they should have enchanteds.
That's a great idea, going back and reprinting some of these beloved cards and characters and remaking them, maybe even reimagining them into an enchanted form that players can use. That's a really good idea that maybe Lorcana and Ravensburg will take advantage of.
Yeah, you see in Magic the Gathering, they have their secret layers. Maybe they could take a example from Wizards of the Coast and do like secret layers where they give us just enchanteds of commons and uncommons.
That is a great idea, and I would love to see it, especially with Cinderella someday. But another great card that we see Claude playing here that hopefully will get more resources is Beast. Just being able to draw an extra card at your upkeep with no damage. This card's reminiscent of the Magic the Gathering card Howling Mind.
It's more reminiscent of like Phyrexian Arena, Dark Confidant, Howling Mind letting both players draw. That's Donald Duck.
But, that's what yes, that's right.
But Beast, some will say that it's the most powerful card in the game. And I can't really argue that. It is easily in the top 5 most powerful cards.
Now, something that I was thinking about was I have not seen anyone shift a Beast. Have you witnessed that?
I have. The Great Zephyr.
What? The Great Zephyr?
He has done. Yeah, he's done it to me. But the 3/4 4-mana Beast isn't terrible. And if your deck is more focused on doing incremental damage, that Beast looks good. It also lets you accelerate into a wheel a little sooner, stuff like that. So we see handshakes, and Nate is going to take down this game and match.
That really is, like you were saying before, Big Bad Thor, that We see this Amber Steel really favored in this matchup against Emerald Steel when it's on the discard track. Really, they can just take away the game.
Yeah. There was a major tournament today, you know. One of my losses was to Emerald Steel. Just, you know, they went Bucky into John the 2 games they won. And like I said, most decks can't really compete against that. Claudio being fortunate, you know, like to make top 8 with Emerald Steel. It's nice that the deck is getting the representation that, you know, I think it deserves. It is one of the better decks that are not the 2 main decks. And the 2 main decks
Definitely.
being, you know, Ruby Amethyst and Amber Steel.
Yeah, I completely agree with just seeing a diversity of decks reach the top level of play here at top 8. It's really great to see that, and glad that we were able to get it in our feature match. Hopefully, as we continue the top 8, if there is another round, hopefully we'll see another matchup where we can feature maybe an Amber Steel or Ruby Amethyst, because I know there's so many of those in today's tournament. Before we go to break, I want to thank everyone for tuning in today to Crimson Lion Games Lorcana 1K today in Texas, sponsored by 20 Lore Pro. Today we have announcing SirAshtown, myself, and Big Bad Thor. Our producer behind the scenes is Luxac, and as many of you may know, our head judge today is Stunning Rob. If you want to watch the video after today's tournament, feel free to look at the Twitch channel where we have the video set up in the archive, as well as our YouTube channel where you can go over and watch the rounds that you may have missed. You can go over to our Discord at 20lore.pro/discord to see deck list, deck discussions, and lots of other upcoming events. Thank you all so much for joining for the top 8. Looking forward to seeing y'all in the next round if we're able to get one, and we'll talk to you then.
Thank you for watching today's video. Be sure to check out our YouTube channel for the rest of the tournament rounds and other Lorcana related videos. Hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you in the next video.